Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. Are you a Christian? I mean, a born-again Christian? What is the Christian's hope? What I'm about to tell you is taken from a book by Britt Gillette. I found this on prophecywatch.com. She offers a free ebook, Coming to Jesus, as well as signs of the second coming and racing toward Armageddon. You can go online and look them up. With all that's happening in the world, are you getting discouraged? About 2,000 years ago, Jesus rebuked the religious elites of his day. He criticized them for their failure to recognize his coming. He told them, "You know how to look at the sky and predict the weather, but you don't know how to recognize the signs of the times." Matthew chapter 16, clearly a free verse quotation. Just like you and me, the religious leaders could see dark clouds on the horizon and know a rainstorm was on its way. In the same way, Jesus said they should have seen the signs and prepared for his arrival. The Pharisees and the Sadducees knew the Old Testament messianic prophecies, but they failed to recognize the Messiah. Their failure is relevant to our day because Jesus wasn't simply addressing the Pharisees and the Sadducees when he said all this. He had a second audience in mind. It's you and me. Jesus was talking to our generation. The Bible is filled with prophecies about the second coming, and Jesus commanded us to watch for him. Mark chapter 13. But our generation is also expected to recognize the signs of the times. Do you recognize the signs? Here's a partial list. The world is complacent spiritually. Much of the world, including a large number of Christians, are not watching for Jesus. They're asleep when it comes to the second coming, even though Jesus warned against it. There are a flood of signs around us. Never before have so many signs of the second coming been present. Here's just a few, just here in 2020. One is called COVID-19. Since emerging in Wuhan, China in late 2019, the COVID-19, or the coronavirus, has wreaked havoc on the world stage. It first led to the shutdown of several major cities in China. Eventually, the shutdown spread to the rest of China, then Italy, Spain, the United States, and countless countries throughout the world. While many nations have made inroads to flatten the curve and even force a decline in new cases, the coronavirus is far from gone. Many are fearing a second wave, while others argue the first wave never went away. While some local areas may have temporarily seen a decline in case counts, the number of new confirmed global cases has grown from 2 million in mid-April to over 8 million today. That's a four-fold increase in 2 months. So far from being in the rear-view mirror, the coronavirus pandemic is still an ongoing global emergency, a form of pestilence. It's one of the signs Jesus told his followers to look for. Luke 21:11. And then there are riots, global riots. In late May, the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer sparked nationwide protests in the U.S. Unfortunately, alongside countless peaceful protests, riots erupted in several cities: Minneapolis, Seattle. In Atlanta, rioters attacked the global headquarters of CNN. In London, authorities boarded up a statue of Winston Churchill to protect it from those threatening to tear it down. Throughout the world, we see images of arson, looting, and mayhem as a spirit of lawlessness prevails. The Bible says this is what people will be like in the last days. 2 Timothy chapter 3. In the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, can't control themselves, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such, turn away. Then there's global depression. Despite all the talk of a V-shaped recovery relative to the economy, no such thing seems to be happening. The global travel industry is a fraction of what it was in early January, and it'll likely be years before we see travel return to what is considered normal. Restaurants, hotels, retail outlets have a fraction of the foot traffic they once had. Last week, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development estimated global GDP could plummet as much as 7.6% this year, twice what it previously announced in March. The World Bank estimates global GDP will fall 6.2%. If these figures are correct, the current economic downturn will be twice as bad as the Great Recession and the worst economic contraction since the Great Depression. More than 1.5 million people in the United States have filed new unemployment claims just last week. This is the worst global economy since the Great Depression, and it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. This creates fertile ground for the rise of a dictator. The Bible says a similar economic catastrophe will pave the way for the Antichrist, Revelation chapter 6. Swarms of locusts. This year, we saw the emergence of one of the worst locust plagues in decades. Swarms of billions of locusts ranging anywhere from 1/3 of a mile to 100 square miles and more have attacked crops on 2 continents. The hardest hit areas so far have been East Africa, including Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia, the Middle East in Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the Southwest Asia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. The UN Food and Agricultural Organization projects these swarms will continue to thrive and spread well into late July. As these locust swarms destroy crops, millions face the prospect of famine in parts of the world where food insecurity is already common. Famine is one of the signs Jesus said to look for. Matthew chapter 24. Rumors of war. On July 1st, the Israeli government will formally consider annexation of large parts of the West Bank. If it does, Jordan has said it will end its 27-year-old peace treaty with the Jewish state. The Palestinian Authority has said it will end its relationship with Israel, and Hamas has warned any such annexation will ignite a new intifada. Only time will tell what July brings, but rumors of war are widespread. Jesus said rumors of war is another sign of his coming. Matthew chapter 24. But these are just the latest signs. Many of the signs Jesus and the prophets said to look for appeared long before 2020. Generations of Christians lived and died without witnessing a single sign of the second coming. Yet our generation is witness to all of them. Those signs include Israel being back in the land, Israeli control of the city of Jerusalem, the gospel preached throughout the world, the increase of travel and knowledge, the arrival of an exponential curve. Jesus said a variety of global signs will come before his return and at the end of the age. These signs will be spiritual, natural, societal, and political in nature. And he said they will appear in a distinct way, like birth pains. Matthew 24. This means the frequency and intensity of these signs will increase as we near his return. Our generation is seeing the exponential increase in war and famine that Jesus told us to look for. In the 20th century alone, more people died from war and famine than lived on the earth when Jesus spoke these words. Israel surrounded by enemies. Israel's exceedingly great army, the rise of Gog of Magog alliance. We're talking Russia, Iran, Turkey, the rise of a united Europe, the rise of global government. Then there's the denial of the signs. Almost 2,000 years ago, Peter issued a warning. He said in the last days, people will mock the idea of Jesus' return. They will make fun of those who believe in the second coming. Given all these signs, you can be certain of one thing: Jesus is coming. And ours is the generation that will witness that return. How can I be that sure? Well, it's simple. All the signs are converging. Jesus said, when you see the signs come together, you know his return is near. Jesus said the generation witnessing these signs will not pass away before he does return. Matthew 24. Now keep in mind, for 1,878 years of Christianity, from AD 70 to 1948, none of these signs were present. Today, all of them are. That means Jesus is right at the door. Matthew 24:33. He said, as in the days of Noah, when the disciples asked him to describe the signs of his coming. He pointed to the many signs, but one of the most overlooked is the idea that when he returns, the world will be like it was in the days of Noah. In those days before the flood, the Bible says the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered the boat. People didn't realize what was going on, didn't realize what was happening until the flood came and swept them all away. That's the way it will be when the Son of Man comes. Matthew 24:38 and 39. All we have to do is to look around. Our generation doesn't think Jesus will come at all, but he will. And all the signs say he will come in our generation. You ready?